Okay, all right, it is 6:30 and it is March 20th, 2025. Oh, 6:31, I guess. And I'll do roll call first. Terry Warner,
Here.
Matthew McGovern,
Here.
Laura Sanchez Fowler. I don't see her right now. Mike McLeod,
Here.
Sam Houston Clinton.
Here.
Okay, if you would all rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And please remain standing for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you for our little town and for all of the people who are willing to participate in this government meeting. Lord God, we do ask for rain. This drought is really causing a lot of fires, and we just ask that you help us, Lord God, with a nice soaking rain. Heavenly Father, as we go forward and make decisions tonight, we just ask for your guidance. And Lord God, we just ask that everybody really think about what they talk about. Lord God, we do thank you for the gift of salvation and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Hey, so we do have some public comments. First up is Mary Beth Harper.
That's your first day of spring, folks. You know, it's freezing cold.
Happy allergies, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, the library activities for difference from the AARP tax aid has filed a total of 179 yards. That's really good for them. State claim volunteers collect tax returns on Tuesdays from 9 to 11 a.m. And if you want to do that, call the library. The diabetes management class is still going strong, so we meet from 9 to 11 on Wednesdays at also the fruit store, 413 Main Street. The registration is over for that though. This is sponsored by the Area Agency on Aging, also in St. David's Foundation also. On Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon is Creative Kids. That's been very popular. There's so far 26 kids and 21 adults and a dog. I'll tell you, that was the first thing. Anyway, there's been 3 sessions so far. Tonight, Saturday is music is the title of the session. And kids will learn about different instruments and how the different sounds will affect your moods. Think about when you go to a movie, when you get all excited and when it's all sad. Okay, so the series of programs is sponsored by a grant from Save the Children. Okay, Crafters Corner is tomorrow from 2 to 3 in the library, and also Coffee and Conversations at 11 to 12 on tomorrow, also on Fridays. Okay, on Saturday, April 5th is the library's 5th annual kite day. Lockhart just had their first one. We're ahead. It's from 1 to 3 in Bates Park. We'll have free kites, stomp rockets, bubbles, giant games. Anyway, it's always a lot of fun. And I've asked for free parking from 11 to 4 on that day. And the Cannabis Forum will be Monday, March 31st at 6:30 p.m. At 413 Main Street. The library is just hosting this event as a community service. All expenses were paid for by donations from private individuals. And all the candidates for city council positions are invited to them. All I'm there.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Oh, thank you. Next up is Matthew McGovern.
May I please have my slideshow put,
Which one?
parking, yeah, the parking signs. Okay, so we now have parking signs now. Mr. Booker volunteered to dig the holes, so thank you, Mr. Booker. And Mike
helped him and poured the concrete. And then we also have the signs up at, I'm sorry, I didn't change the title. That's at Skull, my apologies. And then we do have a no parking sign that I'm gonna put on a tree across the street. Because Manzolo's gonna be doing work there, so it's silly to put a pole in, they're gonna F with it. And then the tow company will also put a towing sign, because there's some outfitters parking on that side and they're not supposed to. Northwest River Road, excluding the Y, is no parking all the way from, as I understand it, from the cemetery downtown all the way to 1984. Okay, so there are signs going down Northwest River Road to Quail, and then it stops because they got stolen about a year ago, and now Love's on the reward. So I'll be putting up one more sign. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Citizen-
Mike, and thank you all for getting those signs back
Thank
up.
you, Mr. Logan.
He even injured himself.
Wait, what about this one?
That's later.
Later.
Mayor, could I fill out one of those real quick to announce something?
They're up.
I'll get it for you.
I'll meet you in a minute. Thank you.
Okay, Bill Clays.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Bill Blaze. Catherine and I have been residents of Martindale since 1991. And proud to be the president of the Martindale Fire and Rescue Board of Directors for the past 5 years. One of our board's main function is fundraising to buy supplies and equipment that the ESD does not provide. Our barbecue fundraiser on March 2nd was a big success, thanks to our wonderful Martindale community. Last year, the proceeds went to pay for the shortfall of a grant to buy a new skid unit for Brush 63 brush truck. The skid unit is the equipment and water tank on the back of a brush truck. One of our auction items this year was a canoe from TJ Canoes. The proceeds from this item were given to the Justin Bierstead family, who lost their home in a recent fire. Martindale Propane is a third-generation Bierstead family who, third-generation Bierstead business, who have been the biggest, faithful, and generous supporters since we began way back in 1974. The rest of the proceeds this year will go toward a newer first-out brush truck. This unit will be built to also handle structure fires, along with our 2007 fire engine. I want to honor our working board of directors. First, Quentin Matthews, the Matthew McGovern family, Dorothy, Liberty, Emily, and Mary, Joel Hoffman,
And Matthew.
and
And Matthew.
Matthew, of course, yeah. And the Glaze family, Bill, Catherine, Robin, Haya, Charlie, and John. They all worked very hard and effectively to us. Another great year. I also want to thank the entire membership of the Martindale Fire and Rescue for working the day of the event. And Chief Germer's father, Leonard, for his awesome electioneer skills. And then I want to honor Lieutenant Matt Tanksley, who was with us tonight. Take a stand. He has been selected as the Martindale Fire and Rescue Firefighter of the Year. Matt takes good care of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, I never get a clap like that.
Okay,
You have an
next.
entire River Appreciation Day.
That's right.
Okay, next up is Stephanie Carl.
City Council. I stand before you today deeply saddened, disappointed, disgusted at the allegations of election interference and voter intimidation that have been put forth recently. Prominent members of our community, neighbors, people we know and trust, have allegedly resorted to theft, bullying, and harassment in the upcoming mayoral race. I really hope this isn't true. The allegations are serious. Election signs stolen and replaced on private property, community members threatened and intimidated for exercising their constitutional right to choose their representation, citizens strong-armed, bullied, and shamed into voting a certain way or told they're voting the wrong way. This is unacceptable. This is shameful. It is unneighborly, it is unchristian, and it is unconstitutional. It goes against everything Martindale stands for. We are a community. We lift each other up. This behavior is a disgrace to this town, to our citizens' private property, the United States of America, and the great state of Texas. The law is clear. Voter intimidation is a crime. It violates the First Amendment, which protects free speech and the right to participate in elections freely. It violates the 14th Amendment, which guarantees equal protection under the law. Stealing election signs from private property is not just petty theft. It is an attack on free speech. Courts have upheld that displaying political signs on private property is a protected form of expression. Free speech only holds true when it protects everyone, including those we disagree with. Democracy does not function when voices are silenced by intimidation, theft, or coercion. Federal law explicitly prohibits voter intimidation. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, Section 11B, bans threats, intimidation, or coercion aimed at interfering with a citizen's right to vote. The Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 makes it illegal to conspire to intimidate voters or prevent them from exercising their rights. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 reinforces protections against voter intimidation in registration and participation. The Texas law is just as clear. Texas Penal Code 36.02, it is a crime to coerce someone into voting a certain way or to not vote at all. Texas Election Code 276.001, threatening or harming a voter because of how they voted or refused to vote is a criminal offense. This behavior does not just indicate desperation, it is a deep moral failing. It is criminal, but it is also profoundly sad. National politics have driven a wedge through our country, but Martindale must not follow this path. We have to value community over politics, decency over ego, and fairness over winning. Theft, threats, and bullying have no place in Martindale. I strongly encourage both candidates to condemn all ethical violations and run campaigns based on ideas, integrity, and honesty. I look forward to hearing from both of you at the library's candidate forum on March 31st. I thank you all for your service and for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Tittle.
Come on up, Mr. Cook.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for attending.
Y'all are about to hopefully pass the short-term rental ordinance, and I highly encourage that. I have read over the document, and I have found it to be a very good, balanced ordinance and document. It strikes a balance between city funding, your regulations. Also, I believe the interest of the STR operator themselves is recognized. The neighbors are recognized. Their quiet enjoyment of their property seems to be embedded in that ordinance. Life safety appears in that ordinance, and noise, parking. So it's a good document, and I highly encourage y'all to get it done. So thank you.
And thanks for your input, sir.
You bet.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, Laura Sanchez Fowler.
First of all, I didn't mean to get up and walk with my yard shoes on, but I forgot to change them after I was chasing dogs so I. Anyhow, I am here to announce, and I'll pass it around, and possibly the library might be willing to keep this with their little event notices. But there is a Science Bloom, Season of Science, April 4th, 5th, and 6th. Each one of those 3 dates, there's like a separate location, so you would just go to one or the other. Guided nature explorations at 2:30 and 4 o'clock, free fun for all ages. Come and go crafts, games, and lessons. And it is from the science department at Texas State University, the science department or the science education department at Texas State University. And they have been doing a whole series of these, I think since maybe February. So if you're interested in going, I've gone to a couple of them. They're very cute. I'll just pass this around. You can forward it around to yourself. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura.
Okay. Okay, next up is Mike McLeod,
Can I just sit here?
if you want to.
First of all, I want to commend Mr. McGovern on helping put those signs up, and this time we put them in concrete. Yeah, because some people that jacked our signs up, and we gonna outsmart them here, and I'm just saying. And that's a positive thing. I will talk about the positive things about this town. I've been doing this since 2018. And you want to talk about election? I had my sign ripped off. I had 2 ethics violations filed on me. I was accused of buying votes with Taco. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been through it. But the good news, this town has greatly improved. Because I've been here since 2018. We have another additional, I want to call it a park, but I can't call it a park, but paid parking at Skulls. We got phase 1. And when I came on, we didn't have parks. We had 1 park down in Vegas. Now we have 3 parks. And we've got a professional police force. We've got a new judge. We repaved Lockhart Street. Man, we're doing things. And we're working on this short-term rental. That's a good thing. And I think we're doing great things. Now, we're slow. We're not perfect. But it's a good town. And we need this is a thankless job up here. I was called a racist not too long ago, and that's a bunch of BS, and I won't even get into that subject. But, it's a thankless job. We all try to do the best we can. And I think it's going very, very well. And I'm going to say one more preach. I'm done. Have y'all driven around this area lately? It's coming. It's coming. There's development everywhere. And you know what I'm concerned about? I'm concerned about that San Marcos River. And I'm concerned about parks. I'm concerned about a way of life. I'm concerned about having half-acre lots. So we need to really focus on the prize, which is preserve this beautiful town, half-acre lots, parks, the river, because the county has limited enforcement because we do ordinances. So all I'm asking people is please, let's all get along and come on board. And what we really need to focus on is a 0 discharge. And I hope everybody get on board with that. And this is our time to protect that beautiful river. And that's why I ran in 18 for the can ban. And I'm repeating myself, I know. But San Marcos did it. And New Braunfels did it. And that's one of the best things I've ever done. And I feel proud about doing that. And
We're gonna
everybody-
elect you again tonight.
well, okay, that's all. Thank you.
You
Get a band
help
aid.
revitalize the downtown district and got a new ads.
How did I do that?
Just take credit, Mike, it's okay.
It was an NCL that the council made it happen.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They were gonna, yeah, that's right. Thank you for telling me. All right, that's it. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, we'll move on to reports. So this morning, Deanna and I attended a DML webinar on parliamentary procedure,
Wasn't that good? I did too.
and it was very good. And I'm working on a book for procedure, conduct, and decorum. It follows Caldwell County Commissioners Court. Hoppy Hayden gave me permission to use that. And so if you see at your place, we have, we're going to go ahead and start using this as of right now. visit will give the city council a way to get things on the agenda. I know we've asked you to send emails and stuff, but that hasn't happened. So I'm thinking that this will be a very positive step for city council if they want to get things on agenda. You'll see that you'll send it back to both of us. And if you submit something, you need to really think about all of the supporting documents and everything that would need to go with it. And are there any questions about that?
Does it have a time constraint, or do you have to
Right.
justify why you say may not put it on the agenda for a month because maybe the agenda's backed up? So is there some justification or documentation of why
I
it
think
may?
it kind of says that right there. If you don't have all the documentation, it may not get put on until everything has been received.
It says the deadline's on Friday, which are closed.
Well, it's probably going to be submitted via email because it says email it to myself and to this city clerk. So,
Well, yeah, because though a lot of things that I have mentioned in the past were items that we have talked about in the past, and there's documentation and paperwork to back it up, but it was tabled. And so I am not sure what documents I have to produce in order to justify me wanting to put something back on the agenda that had been tabled for months and months. So
so if you come into the office, we can talk about something more specific
and
as
so,
far as what the item might be that you want on and what documentation you might need.
and then,
Oh, and did you know today in the parliamentarian thing, they were saying if something is tabled twice and not gotten back to you, it's dead.
it's dead.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's standard.
okay. And then you'll decide when it gets on the agenda then? That's still up to you to decide that?
Well, we've never not put something on. If it's been submitted to us in writing and not in a public comment, then we have put it on the agenda. But this form now
Okay.
is another step. I think that will be very helpful to you.
Never, to say you have never done that, I think it's a stretch, but,
No.
but that's fine.
Well, I gotta add something to that. Remember this, Mr. Bud? Remember how long I waited to put the Kanban as an agenda item? Remember how it was 8 months, wasn't it? Right. Remember we went through all that workshop and all that, and sometimes it takes a long time. There's a lot of issues. That was because the grocery bag deal, remember, and all that stuff. So sometimes you just gotta be a little patient because sometimes it takes a long time, but it eventually happens, and that's all I can say.
Okay, let's move on to the city administrator's report.
Yeah, so, just want to update you. You've had a couple of ordinances coming your way. We're talking short-term rentals tonight. There's another draft agenda talking about, signage requirements in the scenic corridor and clarifying how chapter 150 and chapter 152 relate. I'm not sure if that draft made it out, so one sentence change. And then there's also a change coming up to fencing ordinances. Oh yeah, here's a copy. We'll talk about it at a future council meeting, but line 19 is the only change in this.
Whoops.
Write that down.
I'm sure it's fine.
Thank you.
It's good.
And then we'll also have a draft ordinance for you coming up regarding fences and parking areas, just so we can better capture some of although they're exempt from their building permit generally, because there's so much flood hazard area within the city, it becomes difficult to manage without any sort of check with me first. And so we'll have an ordinance to address that issue coming. So just want to let you know that we're still putting stuff out. And then I know I put out a ordinance for trees and
Flat work.
river protection and excavation and those things. It's a more of a lengthy ordinance. If you guys have comments on that, send it to me individually, because that's a very rough draft version. So if there's examples of other cities that you know of, things that you'd like to see included, send that to me. We'll work to get that done and have that on the agenda and later this spring, early summer.
That's a lot of stuff that you've been working on. Thank you.
Javi's also working on one for flat work because of the impervious cover. It's something that really needs to be addressed. So if we
Just
can
let's-
regulate, if we have a ordinance that regulates flat work like driveways and stuff, to help with the percentage of impervious cover. So that's why we're doing that one.
I had a question about the sign ordinance you just mentioned. Can we go back to that page? Because we have a normal sign ordinance that's agenda item 152. And then the scenic corridor ordinance is 150. And you brought it up at the last meeting, how there are differences between the two, or there's more specific things in the scenic corridor about either getting permission from city council or paying a permit, or you can't have, signs in the text dot right of way, which I'm seeing as of today. But how?
Sam, we're gonna talk about that next Thursday at the
I know, but
special
I'm
meeting.
asking just about this right
Well,
now.
we're getting off topic again, so.
Again, I'm getting
it's
off topic.
something-
I'm asking Jared a specific question about
It's
this
something that we're
paper.
gonna address next Thursday. It's not on the
May I
agenda.
ask you a question,
Afterwards.
Jared?
I'm happy to meet with you afterwards if the mayor doesn't want to entertain it in this forum. I can meet with you one-on-one and address your concern.
How can one person control the meeting when all I'm trying to do is ask you a question about this piece of paper that you have just revealed on the screen? That's all I'm trying to do.
If
and
you
if-
would like to answer. that
No, I
question.
guess I can't, so I'll just speak to you later.
The intent was to say there's future ordinances that we're working on. This is one that's really short. Intended to have it on the agenda tonight, didn't make it. We'll talk about it in the future. As you review it, what it's intended to do is relate to chapter 150 scenic corridor requirements back as it relates to signage back to chapter 152. So that way the two ordinances are clear, that you interpret both of them at the same time simultaneously, given a certain issue. So we'll talk about how that works in our next council meeting.
I
Yeah,
thank
well,
you. I
well,
just
well,
wanted some clarification about that because I was slightly confused. Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
thank
is
you.
that fine? Thank you.
Okay, city accountant, Dwayne, if we could just address the major, if there's something
The
special.
report's much shorter this time.
Hey,
Okay.
you know what?
Let's see if this format works better.
Wayne, you're gonna have that park mobile fund's gonna be, should be going through the roof.
That's good. I'll get
Yeah.
to stop listening to me. And why are those signs still sitting there?
We heard you.
All right.
What?
The first report here is the statement of fund position. First column is our general operating fund. You see our checking account has $84,548 in it. Our long-term capital, 41,957, emergency 263. Going down, you see the overflow, which is property taxes basically that have been collected and not spent. So total checking in the general fund, 860,000. If you kind of trail over to the right, you see the community development fund has 26,947 in it. The child safety funds, 8,377. The hotel tax, 42,341. The parking, 46,393. The street fund, 8951. Police training, 3944. Court, 22,541. That's just the total of all those revenue, special revenue funds. And so total governmental funds, you see 1,020,000, and then to the right is the utility fund. you'll see on line 25, I moved all but $1,000 out of that checking account and put it up into the savings account up above after discussion at the last meeting. Okay, if you'll,
Wait, can I ask one thing? I know the Park Mobile is a restricted fund and now we're starting to collect money off of Skull Ridge, which is not a park. It's a green space or a parking lot, whatever we want to call it. What will the separate line item be called for the Skull Bridge funds that we receive off the Park Mobile?
I'm not aware of a special line item.
There is.
Well, it has to be because it's not a park.
It is.
It's not a park.
It's on the next tab.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right. If you'll go down a little bit, Deanna. The other major thing we usually talk about is the debt to the state.
Lovely.
Keith, where are we going? What is it? 256,366. All right, so that's probably enough for that report. So now you know how much money you have in every fund. General fund budget report is the next tab. And you see our revenues here, we're about, what is it, about 42% through the year, I think. Yes.
Line 15, Mr. Clinton.
Yes, sir.
That's the line that you're interested in.
Yes.
That is Skull.
Parking off street and
I wondered what that was.
metered.
I saw there was a budget there.
That's Skull.
That's impressive there.
So it has a budget even though it's just receiving funds?
Well, that was the estimate that our city administrator anticipated that we would collect in this calendar year. We did it last year. It was part of the budgeting process
Mhm.
in July.
All right.
Did it last year at the parks?
When we did our budgeting for the whole city, that was put in on the budget.
Okay.
And then it was a matter of, took us a while to get basically a lot of it was the Park Mobile people. I know Deanna had fun with them.
Good job.
But
I hope they're gonna delineate where the revenue comes
Yeah, they
from.
do.
So I can't.
It's a zone,
They do it
zone
by zone.
numbers. So if you
That's
need a
zone.
special report, we can make sure you get access to that report. Or Deanna or I can provide it to you. So, because I think it just comes in one check and you'll have to.
I get a couple of things from them now, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay, if it's by zone,
That's what I
that
look
makes
for.
it easy.
that's
for
zone
us,
3,
but-
that's 03, so 01 is Allen Bates, 02 is Faith, and then that's 03.
Okay, some of the big numbers on here, line 11, you see the taxes, we collected 83% of the taxes, 413,000. Going down, let's see. Well, we can just talk about total income, 460, 169, 72% of the revenue for the year. And you see things like court, see how that's at 43%, versus 42% of the year, so that's on track. And then our expenses, I tried to kind of subtotal by department where it's not every line item. So if you go down a little, you see we've got general government spent 31% of their budget. Public safety has spent 43.9. Parks, 78%. So total expenses, we've spent about 40% of the budget.
Can I make a comment? On the courts, they're starting to bring in some revenue from, the BVRT.
Collections.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they keep telling me about it, but I don't know if I've seen it yet. But
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
But it's coming. Good.
I'll look for it. Okay, so the next one is utility fund, tab. Sorry. And, you see the utility fund. Maybe just look at total revenue, 41.27% on line 19. So that's in line. And on down. That, by the way, that transfer ends on line 22 to pay for the pump. I'm in the midst of a couple of insurance claims on mechanical breakdown insurance. And so far I've been awarded $2,700 of the repairs on Madison lift station, but I think there's still a bill you're sitting on that I need to turn in. There was one that came in late that you had questions on, from electrician, maybe?
Yeah, Apex.
Yeah, and so I'd imagine we'd get, reimbursed from that. And now I have the, people talking to me about the, Crockett lift station on, possibly being reimbursed for that. So if you go on down, I'll show you what kind of numbers are involved there. See, right, line 36, that's a bunch of, payments to the wastewater transport, trucks. And then if you go down a little further, somewhere there's, that equipment, capital outlay for equipment for the pump. So I'm trying to get that money back. So we'll see.
Is that through insurance?
Mhm. Yeah, the agent comes by, or a representative from TML comes by about twice a year, and I was familiar with that kind of coverage, like on boilers at buildings and stuff like that. And I said, well, does that pertain to lift stations? And he said, absolutely. So,
Good job.
so he encouraged me to turn in the claim, and here we are.
Awesome finger.
All right, so total expense, we've spent a little more than budget, but as you can see, we're almost back to break even in the utility fund if we can keep from having any more major. And if I get that insurance money, well, goodness, that'll be very good. Special revenue tab. And not a lot going on in special revenue right now. I don't think any hotel tax money came in last month. The parking money, you see how much has come in year to date. That's about to probably skyrocket with the warmer weather.
And the drought.
Yeah.
We got what, is the water is drying up everywhere.
What about spring break? Isn't that good?
Okay, so you see total income, $25,000 roughly. And if you go down, I don't think we've spent just a whole lot of it. Just mainly the maintenance on the park. So that's the report. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
No, thanks, thanks.
It actually made a little bit of sense.
Yeah,
A little bit.
insurance, good news, so.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some money out of that, and they won't raise our rates through the roof. But we'll see.
All right, thank you, Dwayne. Okay, we're ready for wastewater.
Favorite subject. Pete? Yep. What about those pads over there, those maxi pads over there at the apartments?
Oh
No
my
problem.
gosh.
I shut up, I'll put it, not the baby ones, I'm sorry. the big one.
Boo.
Be quiet. Okay.
I don't want to do.
Okay, Pete.
Okay, I had no issues with the lift stations this month.
What?
February.
That is
And,
great news.
And, we did our normal stuff.
Good.
We circulated the wastewater, get ready for the summer. So improve the water quality of the pond. And, we also collected our monthly BOD samples and checked out the pH. It seems pretty good. And also we recorded our effluent flow for the month. And we checked all the controls and the wiring of the panel. And pond levels at that time, they were maintained about 2.5 feet, but I started to irrigate again, so it's starting to lower down. And the Crockett, this last stuff at the very end, it's already on the horizon, I guess, it's get fixed pretty soon.
Oh my goodness.
It's just the table's uneven or something. I'm not sure.
That one's sitting up taller.
It's the rotation.
That's adjustable.
I'm sorry.
We're just getting it wrong.
So Pete, just to let the council know, we've been working on a couple of sewer taps. One at the post office, and I think they're getting closer. They at least picked up the sewer tap application. I don't know what happened with Sacedo's though, that we were working
That I
on.
haven't had a chance to go up, and I want to talk about all that.
Yeah, and so, and then we're also, all the ones on Northwest River Road,
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
fixing to get ready
I'm
to,
fixing to talk about that.
Are you? Okay, I was curious.
I was gonna elaborate a little bit on it, because when we wait till next month, I'm gonna bring up, I maybe try to do a PowerPoint that Diana helps me. I
okay,
got some pictures.
Is it going all right?
It's going good.
they've got a lot dug up.
You happy with it?
Huh?
You happy with it?
Yeah. It's- yeah, They're,
Is what it
they're making
is.
a service for that land, piece of land there on the, what is it, Riverview or something like that?
Yeah,
Anyway, let me finish my reports.
yeah,
Sorry, Faith.
And, anyway, we pumped about 1,173,170 gallons. And we averaged about 41,899 gallons. And the maximum flow was 140,200. And the minimum flow was 34,250. And, like I said before, I was multitasking between two areas. I'm running two projects, I guess, from the wastewater plants down to River Road. And I've been talking to them in the morning and in the afternoon, to see how the project is going. And I've been taking pictures of all the taps, inspecting. At the wastewater plant, they completed they installed all the 6x6 taps on the effluent line. So they're all done. And they replaced, they're installing, they're working on the fence now. On the southeast side of the plant, they're installing all the posts and all that. And, we ran into a hiccup with a 2.8-inch valve, so we're gonna lower the water level down. Because the valve, the old valve is running in the water area. We gotta lower it down somewhere. I guess they got an email there, I think, from the engineers,
Okay,
and, I think you, Kathy gets,
okay.
and,
Do I need to do something with that?
well, they made a suggestion that, because they want to lower the water level
Yeah.
pretty fast, and we can't, with our system we have, we can't lower it down that fast. There's a lot of surface area.
Okay, the ponds, right?
Right.
Because we can only do from the two ponds up.
Yeah, but they want to pump,
Yeah, I saw that email.
they
I
want to
wasn't,
pump, one into, no, pump, from the effluent pump to the effluent pump, pond two, I guess. They want to pump water from one pond to the other to lower the level in the Secretary Lagoon in the middle pond.
yeah,
we
So
have
they
a
could get-
report
have a
going
better
on.
access to the,
We have a report.
Right.
going on.
where they put those,
Got it.
where they put those guys is right in the edge of the water.
so it wasn't clear to me that there was I thought that was just a status update, because I saw that email.
No.
Was it a question that,
It was, they want some,
They want-
feedback from you all. See what,
I mean, if they need to do it and it doesn't cost
Well-
any money, then do
well,
it.
it may be coming to an RFI or something. Because,
To a what?
Like, we need a contract out,
or get a pump or two.
like rent a pump or two.
Yeah, a 6-inch pump. That's what we need.
Could the general contractor who's in charge of that project do that under the terms of their contract?
That's,
If it's required for them to do it, they submitted a bid to
That's
do
up
the
to y'all.
job.
Y'all
If
have to-
they're saying, I need a tool to do the job, it's up to them to
That's-
supply the tool to do the job that they said
Yeah.
that they're going to do.
you might have to answer that.
Okay, I'll look at it.
And it's, that's,
Thanks for bringing that up.
that's a
So
big-
that wasn't clear.
that's a big ask.
Okay.
But I did get a quote for the pump, what the rental is.
Okay.
And I'll send it to you.
All right.
Okay.
And, then I went up here to, Northwest River Road, they completed 4 taps. And they got into a lot of, the guy said he's glad I was here because, there's a lot of fiber optics.
Oh.
Yeah, they had, we had done a franchise permit with Rise Broadband, and they worked with our engineers.
But they were real slow about it because they didn't want to break the license, which you're supposed to. But, they're picking at it. They did 4 services so far.
Shouldn't those lines be marked? Shouldn't
They
they
are
come out?
marked.
They are marked.
They are marked, but sometimes those guys make mistakes. Because he was digging in one area and the thing was over here.
Got knocked down or something.
Yeah.
Were they gonna do taps on both sides of the
Both
road?
sides, they're gonna do some crossings across.
Okay,
review back to the, I guess the river on the other side.
yeah,
Then they got, I guess on Crow Run, they're gonna do some other tests too.
okay.
But, I'll bring some more information, I guess, the next month. For the next meeting.
Thank you very much. You've been working a lot this
Oh,
month.
yeah, I think great. Yeah, but they're good folks. Pretty good.
And you've been, yeah, doing a lot on the grant.
Yeah.
That's going really well, I think.
And to add some more dirt to that, what we're talking about. The forecast don't look good they want to do it next Wednesday or Thursday. But, it looks like it's a little bit of rain forecast. I talked to the guys this morning, and they may push it to maybe April the 2nd, something like that. And if that'll give me a chance to probably move some water out of those ponds.
Okay.
So we might not have to get a pump. I'm just,
They had when they submitted bids, we had the ponds open and they came and interested bidders were able to review the pond, look at the land, look at the ponds.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up to the city to bail them out.
no.
I totally agree with that.
It's not like a hidden,
No, it's
It's
open.
obvious, you've been on the job. It's
yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you go look at it, it's supposed to explore all those things.
So, good point.
That's something y'all gotta answer.
Okay.
I have a quick question, Pete. Can you put that PowerPoint? I want to know, who is responsible for these taps that are on the ground? Because there's a whole bunch of broken ones. This is on Quail. And it's been broken for a while.
If it's off the edge of the street, it's ours.
So I'll send you this PowerPoint because there's a bunch of them that are.
Yeah.
But that one's been for a long, they ran over it a long time ago, so.
Do something about that. It's not good.
Yeah, well, that one definitely not, it's a really bad placement. And I don't know how they ever got put in, because it's a water line like right next to it. It is. It's just, I'm like totally confused by it.
I know where that is.
You know exactly what I know you do, but I'm like, I've seen it run over. It's a very not good location for it.
Well, thanks for finding that out.
But I'll send you all these, yeah, there's one on Rooker's Road, and then the one next to the mayor's house, the lawnmower guy hit it.
I put a cap over that one.
Yeah, I noticed that, I did notice that.
Yeah,
At
because-
3:13.
Yeah, the lawnmower, the last time they did mowing about 3 weeks ago, I walked by there the other day, and I was
They
like,
might have broke it too.
well, that's why, that one, that's, so I'll send you that, I just work out that. No, I'm 90% certain it was a lawnmower. It was the right lawnmower guy,
Something hit it or something.
yeah, so.
Kate, one question, it's probably not your field. Have they mentioned that culvert going across Northwest River Road, Lanzo?
Well, I mentioned it about, we talked about it a while back. And that stormwater project.
Yeah. Did they mention any time frame on that?
I guess as soon as they get through with all the sewage, I guess they're gonna jump on that.
We'll have to ask Thomas or Gary.
I had a meeting with them all back.
Did you have a chance to ask about I guess not your expertise, those trees? Has anybody ever found out about the trees?
No.
That's not your realm
No,
of
it's
expertise.
not
I'll let you go, Pete.
Oh, I want to ask one thing. We still, we had spoken about the broken sewer lines on Southeast Road and Cemetery Road and how the infiltration is going into the Crockett manhole. And maybe after you deal with the lift stations, you could get us a bid on
Yeah.
the cameras in those lines, because we get millions of gallons, or not millions, but thousands of gallons coming into our lift station.
You never know. I mean, if there's so much rain.
If it ever rains, yeah.
No, I forgot that, Sam. I forgot about that, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, because there's no active sewer lines on anywhere in that part of town, and that's not providing a utility service on that whole side of town.
That's the city's gonna use, I'm trying to go to refurbish all that, clean them up, so, yeah. We gotta find all the broken pipes first.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Next thing,
Is Chief Ward back there?
Chief. Chief.
You're up.
Would you personally say?
No.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So in February, we wrote 87 traffic citation, we had 87 traffic stops, citations and warnings. 35 warnings, 52 citations. Of those, 5 are passing, excuse me. 5 are passing certain vehicles, driving license invalid, 4 failed to change address on driver's license, 5. That's important when we work with the courts, because that way we can hunt down the people and find them with the new system and everybody's working with them. Following too closely, 1, defective equipment, 2, we're gonna probably see a lot more of those here coming recently or in the future, due to states doing away with the inspection. So you'll see a lot more cars with probably equipment violations and so forth, because they're no longer required to get inspected, so people aren't gonna fix their stuff as much as they probably should.
So quick question, so you'll be involved with that? If they have a blinker out or a brake light, you'll give them a citation?
We do it now, we've been doing it for a long time.
Have you noticed more of it since the state quit?
Have they started inspecting yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
January, that's all, just since January.
Okay, yeah, not really. I mean, I know it's coming. You'll probably start seeing more as years go by, but you know, we're still new into it. I didn't know when it stopped. If you're done, haven't get mine done yet. 8 expired registrations, 3 failed to maintain financial responsibility. That's important. That's insurance and people get to a crash. And then speeding, 56. I kept the city ordinance violation on there. You can see we didn't write any this past month. I went into a new reporting process for that. And we're just writing reports and giving our warnings according with what the ordinances say. Hey, give a 10-day warning, give this. So we're doing that and writing a report off of it. I know there was some issue with, in previous, I don't bring up the past, but there was an issue in the past. So what we're doing now is we're taking a picture of it the day we see it. And then at the 10-day mark, we're taking a picture of whatever violation is there, and then we'll move forward with it from there. So far, good, everybody has fixed everything that we've given the 10-day warnings on within the time frame. So
Nice.
we're good there. But I want to keep it on the citation thing, city ordinance violations on the citation thing, and let you know that there was 0. Activity, we had animal calls, we had 2, and some of those, not all of those, I mean, you see them on our Facebook. I get called on them all the time about stuff on our Facebook. Some of those are like not in Martindale, just so y'all know. They're like outside the city limits of Martindale, and I have no authority over those. Some of the animal calls we get are like loose livestock. We've had quite a few of those lately on the road. You know, it's been dry, so the cow are looking for the green grass that's on the outside of the fence. And so that's what's happening. We just go run them back in and get them to their owners. City ordinance contacts, 8. Court bailiff, we're doing that. So we have a bailiff at the courts now when they're here. So the officer spends time with the courts just in case something happens. Usually the city attorney is usually causing some trouble that we have to take care of. And that's why we have it. Residents and business checks, I want to highly encourage everyone, if people are listening in the world, please let us know that if you're going on vacation or whatnot, so we can check your houses and make sure that everything's safe while you're gone. So you'll feel a little bit safer that your house is being looked after while you're not home. And so we did 8 of those this past in February. We had 22 calls for service, 5 incident reports, stepped up a little bit on the incident reports. 4 assist county and EMS, that was down a little bit from what we usually do. We had 22 motorist assist, 22 park checks. That seemed like 22 is the number for February. 5 traffic hazard, traffic control, 1 crash report and 1 offense report.
Are you having any violations on the through truck at Plum Run? Has that been
I
affected?
have not seen one.
Excellent.
I've not seen 1 truck. We had 1, but he was stopped, but he had a reason to go there. He was going to that business right there. So he's legal and go to that business.
Loans on that.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
This is kind of a weird question, but If there's a dog in Martindale and somebody calls you, do you actually pick it up and stick it in your car?
It depends, yes. We have, yes.
Okay,
Uh,
then you take it to Lockhart.
And we'll take it to Lockhart. If Lockhart has got room for them, if Lockhart don't have room for them, we try to ask the person, hey, where did you get the dog from?
Mhm.
Like I said before, some people pick it up where they see it and they just bring it home and then call us, well, it's not picked up from here, so we need to get it to where it belongs. Because taking it to Lockhart, if someone picked it up off Skull or, in San Marcos off 621 or something, they're not gonna really look for it in Lockhart. So sort of defeats the purpose, and their dog will end up somewhere by a rainbow.
Very well said.
Oh, wow, I just got that. Aw.
What else to say?
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions? Other than that, we're doing good. Everything's going smooth so far.
So real quick on the Skulls, I got a call it a paid parking lot. It's not a park, but a paid parking lot. Are you gonna just inform people like we did at phase one?
So yeah, when we see a car parked there, we're gonna say, hey, you have to pay. Right now, I don't have access to the pay portal. We'll have to figure that out at some point in time to give us access to see exactly who's paying and not. If we see someone there, or if we see someone parked in the no parking area, Salcedo's has got the contract for the no parking on that right side, that northeast side, heading that way. We will call Salcedo's and let them come and just deal with it.
Okay.
So really, we're trying to stay out of that business. It's sort of like, hey, I go there and I force you to pay, so that's just hey, you know what, the sign's there, you figure it out. If you can't figure it out, a tow company that's got a contract will come and help you figure it out.
Okay, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chief. Appreciate it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to new business and I'll turn it over to Jared. I don't know, Jared, do you want to do 3.2 first?
No, we can do 3.1.
Okay.
So 3.1, this is, you've seen a draft of this before. This is just redrafted with the full recitals for amending our hotel tax levy. For a hotel tax levy. If you want, I can go through this line by line, or if this is something you've seen before, if you have any questions, I can answer them. And if there's no questions, we can, since this is marked as discussion only, we can move on to the next agenda item when you're ready.
Is the parking in this revised document?
This revised document is only the hotel occupancy tax, and the major feature is that it requires the listing service, Airbnb, VRBO, and similar, to pay the tax on behalf of the owner of the property instead of relying on the owner to remit those taxes. That's the main change.
Could you show me that on the line? Cause I got my eyes, and by the way, I'm gonna apologize for last week, because I was on Zoom. And there was this, I was being a little flippant with you and I apologize.
I don't even recall. But you're forgiven. So let's go down the
Maybe
bottom of
you
the
can
screen. So any additions from the existing code? The existing code is as is shown. Any additions are underlined, any subtractions are striked out. So we're using the same, we're just making changes within the code as it exists. So section, starting at line 18, provides the definitions, some changes there, and the subparagraphs, if you want to scroll down again. Past the definitions, all these definitions relate back to our other ordinance that we're looking at next. If there's any questions on the definition, happy to address them. All right, pause here. Line 47. So this is where we get into some formatting changes. It used, subparagraph B used to talk levy and collection. Paragraph B now only talks related to the levy. And then the method of collection is broken into two separate paragraphs. Paragraph C and paragraph D. Paragraph C, starting at line 59, is the collection, reporting, and payment requirements for short-term rentals. And let's pause right there.
Yeah.
And then the line 60 and 61 creates a requirement for the listing service to impose the tax. And then line 62, beginning with line 62, that paragraph describes the reporting and filing requirements for the payment of taxes. And on line 65 and 67 describes when those payments are made at this time of filing the reports. Let's keep the line 65 showing. Let's pause if there's any questions.
So is that what you're describing there? How is that, or is that exactly what we're doing now in receiving taxes from the Airbnb folks?
So let's go back up to subparagraph B then.
Yeah.
I think that was what, row 40 something.
Yes.
47. So row 47, this is imposing the tax. Nothing related to the imposition of the tax has changed. The only thing that has changed is the collection payment and reporting requirements. So taxes are imposed. The rate is right there in line 51, subparagraph 2 at 7%. That's consistent, no change there. And then the state statute is what applies hotel occupancy taxes to short-term rentals in addition to your traditional hotel, as you might think of it on the side of the road. So and that's been applied for the last 10, 15 years since we first proposed this tax.
So if we just break it down to simple math, say if a room costs $100, there's a 7% tax that the person that's renting the room has to pay in addition to the $100.
To the city, the state, I believe, has an additional percentage separate from that 7%, so it ends up being like 13 or 14, something like that.
It's 6.5, I believe.
So the tax, this only relates to the 7% that is the city is charging, but in essence, then they're paying 6.5% to the state. Airbnb, they're also paying to and to the city. And so the city is currently receiving the 7% from our Airbnbs on a quarterly basis, and it's broken down per each individual address per se. How?
Each individual property owner right now, under the ordinance as it exists, is responsible for remitting those payments and reports to the city. I will tell you, not all of them do that, and that's one of the reasons why we have the registration requirement. Because right now, it's without the registration requirement, it is very difficult to manage and enforce that collection. And without spending a lot of time and money, we could, if we want to spend a lot of money, to do like a tax audit on all of them going back however long we can do that for. 4 years. So to avoid that expense, we're having a registration requirement. That way the city staff on its own could do that work.
So Airbnb collects the money of the 7% that we receive from the property owner, and Airbnb pays it to us.
That's what this new change will do.
But before, the property owner was responsible for doing that.
They were supposed to basically check a box that they know that they are with. Now, if you register and the property shows inside the city limits, it'll, in theory, it's going to automatically charge the 7%. The city of Martindale, because we're smaller, we actually allowed to charge it inside our ETJ as well. So there are some people who do report that are managed by big companies. The one that's out of Wimberley that manages like 400 or something, 500 properties. They pay it because they understand the rules. So it's a big management company. But when you do a public records request from the comptroller's office, all we get is the corporations. We don't get the individual mom and pops because they're not a corporation. That's not public record. What this is going to do is Airbnb sent this verbiage to us, and they'll go, and now Airbnb will recognize those addresses that are in our city limits in ETJ, and they will automatically check the box that those people have to pay the 7%. It's not on the cleaning fee, it's only on the room. And then the actual homeowner won't even have to worry about that. Airbnb and Virgo will actually do the collection and they will send the quarterly reports.
Excellent.
On those. If they self-manage it, you know, and do a one room or something, they're still gonna be responsible for their own.
Yeah, because Austin has changed their single residency laws within these past week or two. They're actually charging 11%. They're charging 9% for motel tax and 2% for a venue fee. But even those homes that are not registered are still having to pay that tax. So what if we find, though, that a bunch of Airbnbs, as we currently see, that are in the ETJ or in the city limits that don't pay the $150 registration fee, but continue to rent out? Who's going to check and balance that those Airbnbs have not registered, but they're still charging and not paying the tax?
The city staff.
City staff will do that. We'll have a whole long list of all the Airbnbs.
I have a
And
list of all the Airbnbs, and Jared has a website that lists all the Airbnbs.
There's public available websites that aggregate short-term rental listings. And it's pretty easy to compile that list. But difficulty that we have right now is the only thing we would be able to do is go back and say, all right, this is listed. Have we received a quarterly report to payment? For a vast majority, the answer is going to be no. But in order to do that audit, it would cost a lot of money. Instead, we're going to do a registration requirement and say, go to them, by the way, you haven't registered. And because you haven't registered now, it's a kind of a code enforcement item. And then if it continues to go to the point where it makes sense to go after them from a tax audit perspective, then we could, if it escalates to that level. But I think it'd be pretty expensive for us to go and try to collect compel those payments right now.
so you think our
Also, our records aren't the best because within city limits in a residential area, it's right now managed through zoning as a specific use permit. We don't have electronic records of all the specific use permits yet that have been issued. And so it would be a paper trail chase going back through P and Z minutes and the rest to pull all those together. And then those who exist outside of a residential, like mixed use area, like the downtown or elsewhere, we have no record of them existing other than what we might find on a public facing website as part of an audit.
So based on the many hats that our personnel wears here, who is going to be responsible for all of this? It's a very time-consuming process to check, say, coming into spring and summer. I mean, how do you think our
One of the
personnel
way
can
that we're
keep
going
up
to
with
do
this?
this is we require quarterly reports and we're defining the quarter, so everybody's report is going to happen within the same month. Well, it should also have registration. So we should be receiving remittances from about 40 or so properties. It could be, depending on what it looks like on the back end and once we start going and how mature it is, it could be as easy as our chief financial officer. I have 40 on my list. I receive all 40. But
They won't just all
until
come from Airbnb in one payment?
that's what we'll have to find out. It should be,
Well, some lists on both. Some lists on both.
yeah.
So, yeah, just to complicate your life a little.
So if it gets, those who aren't registered are going to be the bigger problem. And then that we'll address that as a code enforcement issue with the assistance of the police department. And also our building inspection B&B will have a role to play as well as it relates to inspections and things, but that's on the following ordinance, but they're related issues, so it makes sense they brought that up.
So who currently is the code enforcement and our building inspector?
Code enforcement right now falls under the purview of the chief of police, and our building inspection is provided by Bureau Veritas, a third party that we contract. And we are hopefully within the next 8 to 9 weeks, we'll have our building permit software rolled out. And so we can put all these things, hopefully, on on that platform. And so it's all automated. It's like one place. We could go up pull list and hopefully it's pretty easy.
Because you have also in line 95 and all that, there's late charges, there's interest. I mean, that's a whole nother thing to keep up with too. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
that's
trying to keep
really-
up with payments and now you've got late fees and penalties and charges. I
I
mean,
think- I think
On the ordinance all along.
There's no,
I'm
there's
sorry, what?
very
Late
little,
fees all along.
there's very little change regarding the late fees. The only thing that we've done is make sure that whatever we had written in for short-term rentals also applies to hotels and vice versa. You see a couple of small changes, but the main fee has not changed. A late charge of 15% and an interest charge of $1 per month, or 1% per month. So again, that's something that the city has to impose. We haven't enforced that yet because likely tie up some Kent time and a lot of staff time to do that level of work. And it just hasn't been a priority thus far, but
the penalties?
to impose penalties and go off and try to collect.
But I thought we had that already before. That's what was mentioned.
No, we've had it before. We just haven't enforced it before.
Oh,
Yeah, the hot stuff is going through Airbnb and they pay us directly. That
Yeah,
hopefully.
We're circumventing.
Yeah, hopefully that
the
will
people-
be, yeah.
For not doing it by collecting it another way.
Way.
So I reached out to Airbnb, they said, this is what you do, and then you're gonna get 90% of it. Because it's good, we're gonna collect it. A Vrbo and Airbnb will collect it. 90% of the
That's the
revenue
hot, that's the way.
is done that way.
Yeah.
So just, that's what everyone's doing. He said, and we will do it. They said, we will do it because we have to do it. The state makes us do it.
So, Mr. McGovern, so in what you've seen, the Airbnbs in our area, most of them, what's percentage are Airbnb and, or?
Well, I know how many the count is versus how many we're collecting on, and my gut would be that we're collecting on less than 30%.
Do we know?
Less than 30% are paying.
Do we know how many are able to use the service Airbnb?
I have a list of everyone that I did a year, so just over a year ago. And, yeah, there was 60 something that and actually Jared found more than based on that on the website, I didn't catch those. So Jared found a couple more. But I think I found the big users, the people that are actually really doing it. And there's 60 something, and there's about 16, 17 in the city limits. And most of them, as you can imagine, are in the ETJ.
Yeah.
And most of the ETJ people don't even know they have to pay.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest thing. They just don't know. And, we either write them a letter or we just do it this way and say,
That's the way to go.
but ultimately, we could send everyone that we know a sort of, a letter, whatever methodology, to say, hey, FYI, you now have to register.
Yep.
And if they don't respond, and that's your solution, which I think you're trying to get to, Mr. Clinton, and you send them a letter.
yeah.
And then 30 days later, they don't do it, then you follow up with a certified letter, and 30 days after that.
Well, I think that's something that I mentioned it, and it's also something that needs to be discussed. And you just mentioned there's 65 or more properties that haven't been paying and maybe didn't even know. So you would think the next logical thing to do would be to contact each individual address and send them a copy of this ordinance. Is that the plan?
Once it's passed, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it just takes time.
Because it's, yeah.
No, I thought we were gonna, I prepped this over a year ago. I was with you, but I'm not personally sending a letter to anybody, So,
You want to volunteer for that, Mr. Clinton?
Well, no, it just means giving him a copy of this ordinance.
You want to volunteer?
I don't print things and put stamps on it. We have the personnel here, and if we're saying we're adopting this ordinance, then the personnel that we have in place has to do that. And currently, they're all wearing many hats, and I think this is a lot more work. And
Well,
that
it's
the
just-
personnel that we currently
small
have, it's
steps.
gonna be challenging
Well,
to
everything's
keep
challenging.
up with the penalties, the fees, the charging, the collection, more work for our accountant.
I think that Matthew has found a really good way
That's
for
good.
us to collect it, because if you can go through the Airbnb company
That's,
and they collect it, because they're already collecting
Yeah.
for the state, I think that that'll make it a lot easier, because right now it's pretty much on a volunteer basis.
I think that's.
Well, then we should send the letters to Airbnb.
As soon as we pass both of these ordinances.
Step by step, Mr. Clinton.
I've already had the contact with Airbnb out of Austin.
I'm just trying to get an organized trail of events here. How?
That's what we've been working on for a year on this ordinance. That's what, it's step by step by step.
I'm just
So we pass
concerned
it.
about the collection phase.
Well, we gotta pass it first.
Hey, I will address that. We pass it, we send it to Airbnb, and he said it'll take him less than 60 days. He'll start putting it all in line. Just give him a list of your ETJ and city limits. He said they do it all the time. Draw them out, put all the addresses. It's not a big deal. You should do the same thing to Verbo. They expect it. So I reached out to them a year ago. You know, that's how it started.
So for an
Let's grab Sam.
You call Sam back.
Hello.
They're ready to go.
Oh, I think it's back.
Yeah.
Let Steve come back in.
Yeah, he's coming, he's
Okay.
talking right there, but yeah. He knows.
Okay, so electricity went off. It's back on. We're gonna record again.
Yeah, so where we left off, we're talking about the payment procedures and how that's changed. And now we expect the listing services to submit that payment on a quarterly basis, and we'll notify them and people who are affected by this ordinance who manage or operate short-term rentals once it's adopted. But for tonight, it's discussion only. So if there's not any additional conversation or discussion or questions on that, we can look to the next ordinance if you want.
So this is our second reading on this one.
Yeah,
And so we'll bring this back one more time.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, be sure to contact Jared or Javi, because they've both been working on it, and they'll be able to help you.
I gotta commend both of you, all city staff on this. It's been a long process. Very well done.
all right, so Mayor, if are we going to the next agenda?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
All right, so the next agenda item is the motion to approve or deny the ordinance providing for regulation of short-term rentals. This is, I think, our third review.
Fourth, I think.
Third or fourth review of this. Major changes from the prior version to this one dealt with, I believe it's paragraph 6.1 and 6.3. And near the end of the document. Six dot one changed how inspections are required prior to issuing a permit and at each subsequent renewal, clarified that. And then at the end of section 6.03, the approval for any subsequent registration request following the revocation of a permit shall be made by the Planning and Zoning Commission at its discretion following showing by the applicant that the appropriate remedial actions have been completed. So that responds to city council's input last time. And there's been no other significant changes. I think a couple of minor typo kind of stuff got cleaned up, but those are only two things. So I believe this should be ready for.
A motion.
I had one question.
Well, just a minute, before we can have discussion, we have to have a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-03-20, providing for the regulation of short-term rentals in the city of Martindale, Texas.
And do we have a second?
Is that correct? That's what I'm getting. That's it.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And is there any discussion?
Go ahead, Sam.
Yes, I know in the provision before, there was one circumstance about the 400 block of Main Street did not have to include off-street parking. In this ordinance, it talks about off-street parking. In the 400 block of Main Street, duets, and I mean, the Airbnbs above are not required. Also, we have a schoolhouse here that is in mixed-use zoning. The schoolhouse is almost classified as a dance hall. It's a wedding venue. And so we have other Airbnbs where there is an exclusion in terms of the parking above parking above duets. And the schoolhouse is also classified as a dance hall or a wedding venue. And so they have like a big classroom that may be converted, that's got maybe more beds in it. But I know we've taken care of that by saying if they want to have more than 2 persons per bedroom, then they have to pay, say, a little more for the permit. But I think we need to look into a little bit about the exceptions of the Airbnbs above duets and of the schoolhouse. And it doesn't mention anything about mixed use zoning. I don't know what kind of zoning differences there may be between an
In the
Airbnb
case
and.
of Duets, I believe there's a contract between that property owner and the city, and this ordinance would not affect that contract. Would be my expectation. If we want to have a further discussion on that, I'll be with our attorney.
Well, all I'm mentioning is because I have seen it in writing that the 400 block of Main Street is exempt from off-street parking. And I've seen that in writing. And so that is a conflict to what it says in this ordinance about Airbnbs pertaining to parking.
Yes, those two things would be in conflict. My understanding is that the contract that the city signed with that property owner would still be the controlling document as it relates to that issue.
But where is that reflected in anything that we're reading here?
Well, this is the ordinance for the city. This isn't a negotiation on a single contract that the city has with the property.
The general way that ordinance like statutory construction works is that the authority that enacts the ordinance or the legislation or the law has the ability to contract around that with any individual as it so desires. And so you don't have to, that's a general principle of law. You don't have to state every potential exception to an ordinance when you enact it. You reserve the right to contract or provide a variance exception to that, which is what that would be.
Like zoning, as all we.
Correct.
Yeah.
But more importantly, on the 400 block is the city has a lease where we gave them that roadway and they were supposed to put parking to handle those people's stay. They have not done so yet. But that was the premise for the city, because I know that was a big issue
I remember that.
beforehand about, you can't do this because there's not enough parking. But we gave them, leased them, don't give them, leased them for an extended period of time, that property, now under the premise that that work was to be done, to alleviate that thing. I mean, it's a great point when you brought up, don't have totally think it's a good point. But that was the whole premise of doing that, was to avoid this, not put an overburden on 5, 6 additional cars being upstairs. They were running on the neighborhood downtown.
Well, they only had to provide a couple of parking spaces for the employees. I mean, oh, you're talking about the parking in the back.
They have not done that.
They haven't done that yet.
That's not required. There's carve out in the statute, says there's this little downtown district where the parking requirements that otherwise apply to the greater city don't apply to that downtown district, and so they don't have to do it.
Okay.
Are there any more questions about this ordinance?
What about the schoolhouse?
I didn't understand the issue that you're trying to.
Well, it isn't just an Airbnb. They have a different ordinance too that says they can play music, I think, till 11 o'clock at night because they're considered a dance hall or a wedding venue there. And so certain restrictions of Airbnbs that are currently in place, there are a couple exceptions to the schoolhouse contract.
Oh, so it's not about parking.
No, I'm talking about also, well, they have off-street parking, so that doesn't apply. I'm talking about noise, what we're calling music or noise. They have a separate contract that says they can have music or noise till 11 o'clock at night because they are a dance hall, considered a dance hall or a wedding venue. So you have other commercial activities that are linked to the Airbnb, such as a schoolhouse that is different from our standard Airbnbs. That is a standalone residential structure. The schoolhouse is a specific and unique situation where we have a commercial business of weddings and dance halls with a difference in noise limitations after 10 o'clock. So I'm just saying there's an exception. They are an Airbnb, but they're also something else.
No, I kind of remember that under Mayor DeVinny, didn't they negotiate something like they don't have to get special permits for
Each time,
yes.
I don't recall something like that.
We need to review the
I mean,
contract with the
I
schoolhouse.
remember
The,
Craig.
the,
coming
the
and
issue,
saying-
there was an issue at one point dealing with their filming activities and it's spilling out, onto the city's right of ways.
Mhm.
And the requirement for filming permits, even though the principal filming location was not on city property. And how that would get applied, but I do not recall any sort of agreement being reached related to like a continuous noise permit.
Well, the mayor is
There
right
is a note-
about that,
there is a
about
noise
special
permit.
permits.
There is a noise permit procedure that if you're having an event, I think, I have to go back, I'm going way off memory, it's been a long time since I looked at it. City lacks an event permit ordinance, and that's something that's been existing for a while, but there's been, in the context of filming, a permit for noise, and I think there's a permit exception to our noise nuisance regulation, but
Well, if
that's been an issue.
If our
That's-
attorney has said though, that there could be in certain instances, certain circumstances that may not apply to this, such as the Airbnbs above duets or the schoolhouse, that we have a separate contract with the
I'm not
schoolhouse.
aware of a contract with the schoolhouse.
Well, there is,
But I can't speak to it.
well, yeah, they do have one, just as the mayor mentioned, that if they need a special permit every time they have a wedding, they don't have to apply for one every single weekend that they have a wedding. They have a long running standing permit process that is for a more lengthy period of time.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Well, maybe we should try and review the contract, or at least find if there's a separate contract that exists and an agreement that exists for the schoolhouse, because it does exist. I don't know if we have a copy. Apparently, we may not have seen it.
It may have been as simple as, unless there's a noise complaint, we're not gonna have some, police officer stand on this edge of the street with a noise decibel meter. I'm not aware of anything being in writing.
Well,
And
maybe,
I don't think that really affects this particular ordinance, because what we're
It has
trying
a
to do is.
potential to, it has a potential to,
Potential.
because we do, if the, property is rented out as a short-term rental, and then they're emitting amplified noise after 10 PM, that poses an issue under this ordinance.
yes, because they explicitly told me that they have it till 11 o'clock. And so I think we should either try and get a copy of their contract.
My recommendation is the city would engage with that property owner separate from this
Separate.
ordinance.
Gotcha,
Um,
like a variance.
And yeah, maybe some sort of variance or to a zoning issue. I'm not sure the best board of adjustment contract, whatever it is, longstanding permit, something.
Because we're only talking about two properties,
Because most Airbnbs
or.
Our
are gonna
resident,
be resident, like
Yeah, I
next
think we're
door
all-
to
yeah.
me and stuff like that. That's also an event center, so it's more than an Airbnb.
Well, what are we calling it? Is it a dance hall? Is it a wedding event center? Is it an Airbnb? Is it a schoolhouse? So we need to
I think it's all
clarify.
those things.
We need to clarify this. It's all I'm saying. That's all. For future discussion. No more
Do you think
discussion.
there's
for
a
me.
violation there? If there's not a violation there, then,
Well, if there's a potential,
If
would
you
read
make
this
the 10
contract,
PM rule, there would be.
yes,
well, they're also an event center, so if they already have something that says an event center. then-
but there's no exception to this ordinance that says if your Airbnb is also in an event center, then blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say that there. This is all pertaining
What would,
No,
what,
they have-
what
one
would
ordinance
be in
can
conflict?
or coincide with another one.
the 10 o'clock noise ordinance.
Oh, the 10 o'clock, please.
No, it's two different ordinances. They work independently.
Which
But it
one?
doesn't in that case, because most of the time, the people that are having the party, hosting the event
Mhm.
are also spending the night there.
If there's a written document that establishes that they can inspect, make noise until 11, I would say let's discuss. If there's not a document that says they can make noise until 11, then we're throwing darts blindfold.
Yeah, they'd have to stop at 10.
Right, so, I mean, we're solving for, I don't know what at this point, but, I mean, if the problem arises, we can fix it.
Yeah.
But
For the purpose of today.
Yeah, then
But I think reviewing it to make sure
Yeah,
that they don't
well,
have something in writing saying they can play till.
They should have something in writing. They're the owners. They should have something on file themselves.
Yeah.
So you can make that recommendation, Mr. Clinton.
Okay,
I mean, obviously.
Well, I
ask
mean,
the staff to do that.
we have
You
had
can
a
use your new
contract.
form.
We have a copy. I mean, we have had a copy of many things that we haven't been able to find. So I am not surprised that we don't know about that contract. Okay, we have had so many other things that we can't find, so
All right.
I'm not
Can I-
surprised.
Okay,
Can I move for a vote?
yes.
yes. Okay, so all in favor of passing this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Well, it took only about a year. Thank you. Good job.
Thanks for
Hey,
your
oh
help.
my God. You got something done, man. Good job, staff.
Thanks for your help.
Too bad.
Good job, good job.
And if I can I pontificate?
Oh, you're right
It
there.
is a good
Yes,
document.
yes.
I know I said it before, it's a good document, and I really believe it was balanced with, what do we call it, quiet enjoyment of the property of the neighbors, with Airbnb rights, with some collection, so that y'all can make more money, with regulatory, you can hit somebody, you can manage outliers, I'll be
Yeah.
polite. Life safety, which of course was my big thing. It's a good document. Y'all should be proud.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
If I could clarify, the fees that we're charging in here are not for the city to make money. The fees
Right,
almost entirely are going to the cost to do an inspection, to make sure the properties are safe for people to reside in them on a short-term basis.
I realize that. I guess I'm talking about the hotel fee. I'm assuming that's, that y'all are gonna collect some more hotel fee back.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
which promotes the city.
Yeah,
It's a restricted funds.
right. But I know the zero base, inspection, things like that. It's really just at cost. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, now we have to clear the room because we're gonna go into
Thanks for coming,
executive
Mr.
session.
Tim.
Okay, it's 8:59 PM and we're back in regular session. And our attorney explained to us what was going to happen in the lawsuit. So that's all that really took place.
Second thing, just to be clear, no discussion was had on item 4.2. It being determined that there was nothing to be discussed under item 4.2 that would have been proper for executive discussion. And so the only item discussed was issue 4.1, the pending litigation.
Okay. And so we will move on then to 5.1. We are going to get the agenda out for a special city council meeting. And that's regarding the sign that we had started to discuss at the last meeting. That's Doria's Cakes, that's in the scenic corridor, thank you. And then we will also look at the ordinance and how it can be amended or adjusted. And I think you've already gotten a copy of that. We intended to put it on this agenda and then somehow it got past us. So if there's anything else that any council member would like to add to future agenda items.
Can I ask a question about 5.1? Because Jared mentioned it last time that for a certificate of appropriateness in the scenic corridor that we would have to run an ad in the newspaper. And then also when the permit has been submitted, it has to be concluded within 30 days of receival of the permit. So have you put an ad in the?
Yeah, we would put a ad in the paper advertising the public hearing last Thursday. It went last Thursday's Lockhart paper. And the 30-day shot clock, I believe, runs out April 3rd. So that's what the reason for the special city council meeting.
So
Because
what
that's right
happens?
before, that's the Wednesday before the regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday.
So what happens is if, say, it is not figured out within 30 days, do they get to put the sign up anyway?
It's been a while since I've addressed that. I think that might be the case, but I'd have to look into it.
I think it is.
I know they need to
Let's
have
not
it.
deliberate on it, because we're getting into deliberating on a future agenda item.
You know what time that meeting will be?
Probably 6:30,
6:30.
unless the council wants to adjust it.
It's in the paper.
Public notice.
Oh, it's in the paper. Yeah, so it's 6:30. A little sneeze. So the 27th is a Thursday. Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:02.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
And so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.